Okay, so in this lesson we're going to talk about the bow arm and the isolations and the bow arm movements when playing the cello. And so usually what I want to start with for this is just isolating my lower arm and upper arm and being able to play with either one of those individually, because the entire bow stroke is going to be based on isolating one arm and then the other. So usually I'll just see if we'll start with the upper arm here. I'm just going to use kind of my shoulder as a hinge and try to only move this arm here, keeping everything here nice and still. And so that's going to be important in our bowing technique. Then we're going to try the lower arm. So one thing that helps me is just kind of like put my fingers and my elbow there, just to kind of help. For me, it just helps direct my attention there. We're going to use the elbow and kind of make our swing off of just the elbow joint. So now we're focusing on only moving the lower arm, keeping all this nice and still. And this is going to be really important as you build your bow arm shape. So once we're able to do that, I'm going to take the bow. I'll start with the upper arm here. I'm going to start bowing at the frog and bow to roughly the first third to the first half of the bow with my arm. It's really just going to depend on how far you feel like you can take that before having to move this arm or the elbow or move something else. So I'm going to go on the G string. That's one of the easier two to begin. And this is the only thing that's moving. So I'm going to move from the shoulder joint and then back. And so you'll want to practice just that motion until you're able to do this pretty comfortably while keeping this still. Then we're going to move on to the lower arm. So once you've mastered the upper arm, take the lower arm. For this one, I usually like to start at the tip and then I'll bow down to roughly 1/3 or 1/2 of the bow, somewhere in that area. And so we're going to go here. We're focusing on just the lower arm. Now another good way to, again, as I mentioned, the upper arm you bow until you feel like you're going to have to change shape. Another great tool to tell when it's time to stop, when you've reached kind of the end for your lower arm or upper arm, is we're creating this sort of a box or square shape, which actually leads me to my next point. So after you've isolated the lower and the upper arm, you can play each one on all strings nice and comfortably without having to think too hard. Then we're going to combine them. So I like to start from the frog. I'm going to take just my upper arm and bow until I have roughly a square shape between the strings of fingerboard here, my arm, and then the bow. So it's going to be kind of like this. And that gets me roughly this square shape. I also kind of have like a 90-degree angle right there between my arm. Then I'm going to finish it off with just my lower arm. Come in till I make that 90-degree angle. And then I'm going to go back with just the upper. So we draw out to that 90-degree angle between the arms here. And then we go out. what we're aiming for. And so then I would practice that until you can play it comfortably. As fast as you can. You'll eventually get to a point where you have to take smaller bows to keep up with the speed, but as fast as you can before you have to make your bow smaller. So when we're doing this method, we want to use the entire length of the bow. Another way I like to describe this, because sometimes different ways really help to solidify what you're learning. I just like to learn what different people teach and play, and just try to collect everything together, because I think different perspectives really helps you get a fuller understanding, right? So I talked about the first way we can approach the bowing, which was the square or the upper lower arm. Another way you could think about this is, let's go ahead and start with the middle of the bow on the string. Now I'm going to focus on bringing my hand back that way, so like this. Now I'm going to take my elbow and bring it back, but not literally like this. It's more like I feel like I'm bringing it back, and as I do that, my bow is moving back to the middle. So I'll show that one more time. The hand goes out. Then I want to focus on bringing the elbow back that way. Or maybe that way, that angle. Now the second half, I'm going to bring focus, attention back to the hand. I'm just going to bring it in a straight line this way. And then I'm going to use my elbow back again. Back that direction. And so we repeat this pattern. So we go, hand is going to go out to the right. Elbow is going to go back. Now the hand's going to the left. And the elbow is going back again. So we get kind of this 4-step process. And then we're going to, as you get comfortable with this, you can start speeding it up. So we'll start from the middle. And so those are my tips for keeping the bow, for just drawing the entire bow. This is kind of what builds up your foundational bow arm movement. So in the next few videos, we're going to get into some more details about as far as keeping the bow straight and other things you can do to clean up your sound a little bit more and play some of those quicker notes where you might not be using the whole entire bow. So, we'll see you in the next video.